And we are away. So let me just check. Okay, so welcome to the 2021 budget workshop. I think it's fair to say, I think this is for everybody, me included, everybody in the world, because we've got people on here looking through the list from the USA, we've got California, we've got the UK, Luxembourg, all over. It's been a global challenge this year. We've all come through it reasonably well, I think, unscathed, a bit battered and bruised, but we're through it. And I think it is a good opportunity to look forwards to next year, 2021, when we should be having a bit of a brighter opportunity. So the vaccine is out. I'm not going to talk about vaccines as such, but that could give a bit of hope for people. The Brexit deal, good or bad, I'm not going to talk about politics, will be sorted out, and Trump will have gone. So next year should be brighter all around, if you like. So quick intro about me. My name is Dave Holland. And for those who don't know me, some do, some don't. There's some new faces on the call. I am now sitting in France. This is the house in France. We're working from home. We're locked down. We have offices in sunny Luxembourg, which is about 35 minutes north of here. And we're currently doing a renovation property to move a bit closer to Luxembourg. And you may see updates on that coming along. We have clients in about 35 countries now. I call myself the business co-pilot, and I sit alongside my clients, business owners, executives, entrepreneurs, and basically help them grow their business and build their dreams. So we've got a number of clients all over the world. So quick one about me. If you want to find me, just Google David Holland MBA. You'll find me. For Gareth on the call, that's not David Holland mini MBA. That's David Holland full size, full caffeine MBA. And Gareth's going to hit me for that later on. But anyway, so I'm easy to find. You're welcome to get in touch if you don't know me anyway. So first of all, before we go into budgeting, a couple of principles around budgeting and things that I find people get sort of wrong or around the necks. And the first one is margin versus markup. And the number, I used to struggle with this back in the old days, and I sort of figured it out now, but it's a challenge that people have when putting budgets together. So this is how margin and markup works. If you know this, then absolutely fine. If you don't, this might be just a refresher for you anyway. But so we buy something for £100, €100 or dollars, whatever it is. We mark it up. This is a pricing strategy lots of people use. We mark it up by a percentage. So we'll mark it up by 100%. We double the cost and give ourselves a sales price of £200. Now, the challenge is that we have markup in our minds, but our accounts and budgets and forecasts don't reflect markup. They reflect margin. Now, there's a key difference here. Now, with a profit on that product then is £100. 200 sale price minus your cost price, you're making £100 profit. So what it means is that the margin on that is only 50%. So its markup is 100%, but the margin is 50%. And the way to remember it when you're looking at your pricing and doing your budgets, because you have to transfer the two across, is that markup is the profit expressed as a percentage of the cost price. So markup is profit expressed as a percentage of cost price. Margin is the profit, the same £100, expressed as a percentage of the sales price. So be careful you don't get them confused. I see lots of people, I'm sure nobody on the call, you're all way too sophisticated for this sort of thing, but they price things up, they do a markup, and they really sort of, they don't get it why it doesn't show up in their P&L or their accounts. Well, pricing is markup, but margin is what your accounts measure. So when you're doing your budgeting, you have to flip to margin. You're putting margins into your P&L or your budget template. So if that's the first thing, margin versus markup, just watch out for how that shows up for you. Next thing to think about, and again, to look at when you're putting raw data into a budget template or a forecast, is two key things that show up, or I've experienced in my career and with my clients as well. First one is efficiency. How efficient are your people, are your team, are your resources? And so, for example, you can measure this before you do your budgeting and put some key strategies in place to improve it and develop it. So number one, efficiency. Let's say you've got somebody they're working 40 hours a week, or they show up in the building 40 hours a week. You're paying them for 40 hours a week. Of those 40 hours, how many hours are they actually producing work, either billable work or added value work, or how many hours a week are they physically productive, if you like? So let's say that they are doing 25 hours a week work. And that's probably about what it's going to be. You look at people working in any organization. This includes accountants. It includes bankers and lawyers, coaches and trainers, all sorts of things. but actually the work that I physically do that is, if you like, billable, added value work to clients is only about 20, 25 hours a week. We have to do other things that are non-billable: research, development, design, sales, marketing, accounts, and compliance, all that sort of thing. So in terms of efficiency, if I'm doing 25 hours work out of 40, there's an efficiency percentage that I can work out. And it's simply this: 25 hours divided by the 40 times 100% gives me a percentage efficiency. And what it means is that of that 40 hours that I am working, or your team are working and showing up, only 62.5% of the time is actually billable. It's an efficiency rating. Now, the first job is to look at that. How can you improve that? Measure it first. How can you improve it? Because that's what's going to go into your budget and forecast and reflect in the accounts you get, your management accounts. If you're not getting management accounts every month, 3 or 4 days after month end, then speak to your accountants. They'll sort it out for you, but you need those numbers. There's a couple of accountants on the call here. Aaron, we know, and we've got other, I think there's 2, maybe 3, Steve, accountants. If your accountant's not doing that for you, speak to these guys, and I'm pretty sure they'll let you know how it can be done. You need to have this feedback. So 62.5% efficiency is a first measure. Yours might be different, but measure it and put some bits and pieces in place to try and improve it. Some years ago, this is an example of how powerful it can be. This is in a previous life. I used to run Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted airports for a division of a major airline carrier. And we were doing what we call ramp services. So our job was to meet the aircraft when they landed, and we would call it, you do a turnaround, and that was you clean it, you get the fueling bowsers in, you do the water, you do the toilets, you do the internal clean, you do all the food carts, and you turn the aircraft around. So this pattern, this green columns you can see on the screen, this represents our traffic profile of aircraft landing. This one was Heathrow, between 6 in the morning and 11 at night. Heathrow shuts overnight, 6 in the morning, 11 at night. So busy in the morning, early morning flights coming in over here, all the red eyes from the US, a bit quieter during the middle of the day, and then busy at the end of the day when people are flying back to the US again. That was our pattern. Now, the challenge we had when I first started there was our labor profile. That's our work profile. Our labor profile was this, the red line. Everybody was just working straight forwards on straight sort of, it was a double shift system, that was it. But we had straight line shift patterns. So in the mornings, as you can see, we had under capacity. We were panicking to get these aircraft turned around. Quality suffered, and service wasn't great. But during the day, under that red line, all this white space here, you can see, they just sat around waiting, in the trucks on the ramp and the airport. Hugely inefficient. At the end of the day, panic again because we had too many aircraft, not enough people to service them. So we looked at this, and in terms of our efficiency, it was horrific. It was just horrible, and it needs to be fixed. So what we did, and it's one way you can look at it as well, especially with the COVID situation now, is we looked at shift patterns and work patterns and styles. So we introduced a series of shift patterns in conjunction with the unions, absolutely, negotiating with the unions and the work representatives to introduce a shift profile so we could match our labor availability to our clients' availability, if that makes sense. And then what we did this. So this was how it looked afterwards. So the red line there was the labor availability profile after we put some part-time, some flexi, we did 4 on, 4 off, and 5 on, 3 off, we did 4 and 2, and all sorts of crazy shift patterns that suited everybody. And it meant that our labor efficiency increased dramatically, because what you can see is we still had some pinch points in there where we were, scampering around. We had a bit of slack in the system as well. We had too many people around, but overall it was much more efficient. So when we looked at our budgeting and forecasting, we could plug these numbers in, and it gave us a measure of what we could look at. So look at your efficiency of your team, your output, your quality of services as well. Next one, productivity. So this is, again, key one for all of us and for your teams as well. With those 25 hours work that I'm doing, or you're doing, or your team are doing, what are they producing? And I'm going to use widgets. I never figured out what widgets actually were. I guess this is another accounting training term, but in that 25 hours, I'm making 500 widgets. I'm delivering a product, a service, is 500 widgets. So how productive am I? Well, simply, that is 500 widgets divided by 25 hours, 20 widgets per hour. So we've got efficiency measure and a productivity measure. So before you do budgeting and forecasting, or you start to get reports back in, be really clear on how these numbers appear. Efficiency, productivity, the measures of these things are your gross profit and net profitability, essentially. But look at these measures inside the business before you do your budgeting so you can get some control over it. Your accountants will help you with this. I can help you with this as well. It's pretty straightforward, but these are 2 or 3 so interesting principles to look at before you start the budgeting process. So there's the principles for it. Putting your budget together. Now, how do you put a budget together? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip now and show you what I hope will be a different screen. And oh, you're still there. I can see you now. Hi. Look, nobody's fell asleep yet. Smile, for goodness sake. VJ, hi, good to see you. So I'm going to share a different screen this time. And this time it's going to be the... where are we? Here we go. That's a second. Shut that. Now you should be able to see. Can you see now the fund budget template? Just give me a message in the chat box or something there to let me know you can just see it. We got it there. Just let me know. Excellent. Good. This is good. So I just want to make sure my technology is working. So this template is a simple spreadsheet template, and don't be put off by its complexities, but I've made it as simple as possible. I will send you a copy. You're happy to have a copy of it, and I'm going to talk you through it. Now, please, before I get shot down, this is not intended to replace your Xero system. It's not intended to replace your QuickBooks, your Sage, or anything like that. This is, call it a scribble pad. This is something for you to use as a tool to do a bit of pre-budgeting, have some ideas, and then you can take this information and plug it in to your proper budgeting management accounting system. So don't shoot me down for this. It's just a scribble pad for you. And it's an approach that I use in my business, and hopefully you will like it too. So job number 1 is we start with here, this orange box. How much profit do you want to make in the next 12 months? Because for most of us, our businesses, we probably own our business, or we're shareholders at least. And so I get paid out of salary in the business, of course, to do, but my income is derived from the profitability, the net profitability of the business as a shareholder through dividends. So my real focus should be not just sales and growth and all that sort of thing, but for me, what am I going to do in terms of profitabilities for my dividends and my co-shareholders? Now, my co-shareholder is my wife. So, and those who know Lynn know that she has high expectations of profitability and dividend payments. So I have to be very cautious about this. But anyway, so in here and on the template, all you do, you type in a figure. So I'm going to put in 100,000. There we go. Just 100,000. You can put any figure you like. You want to go for 5 million, that's great. You want to do 10 grand, that's great. 100,000, there's your figure. And also as a bit of fun, on the template, this box will be blank. Put a picture in of something you'd like to achieve in the next 12 months, a reward for yourself. This is mine. I built this thing. It's a beach buggy, Volkswagen air-cooled beach buggy. And I built it in my garage. It was a dream I had to build a kit car back in the UK. This is down in Newport in Shropshire when we lived over in the civilized part of Europe, not the Luxembourg part. But I wanted to build a kit car. Put a picture on there, what you want. It might be a house, it could be a car, it could be a holiday, something to reward yourself for, like a bit of a dream chart, a bit of fun. So put a picture in there. Now we switch over onto the budget template. Now this is very, very simple. At least I think it's simple. Now, so here's how it works. So on here, we've got across the top, the months. Now, all the yellow boxes, as a tip, are the only ones you need to fill in are the yellow boxes. Now, for 2021, you can use this template. It starts in January. So it's Jan, Feb, March, April, May, blah, 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 all the way across to December. If you want to do it for your financial year that starts in April or whatever it is, you can change these months around, but I've left it in there for, just for argument's sake. So you can change those if you want. So then you just simply put in your sales. What do you think? What's your best guess? Because budgeting is only about best guessing. What's your best guess for your sales value next year? Are you going to be doing 150 grand, 500,000, 5 million, 10 million? Just pick a figure that you think is achievable next year, just in sales and top line revenue. So I'm going to put in here 500,000. Easily done. Now, the other yellow boxes, and this is where you can start to engineer your sales throughout the year. Let's say that you are in the the Christmas tree business, well, you're very likely to have 100% of your sales in December. So here, these percentage boxes, you put in the percentage of your sales, your annualized sales, you expect to get in each month. And so if you're in a highly seasonal business, for example, you may be very busy in the summer or quiet in the winter or whatever it is. And you can choose the percentage of that sale. So it gives you the flow through. If your sales are straight line, i.e. every month is the same, and we'll use that for argument's sake here, all you do, you put in 8.33%, and then you just drag it across. And then the checkbox over here gives you the 100%. So you've got 12 times 8.33% equals 100, pretty much. And it just checks it for you. Is that going to give you a sales figure of 499,800? A little bit of rounding there because of the percentages, and that's the rounding down. But there's your sales. Now, this graph here, the sales pattern, that plots for you what your sales looks like for the year. So for this one, this business, 500,000, it's going to be straight line through. Yours may be different. You can choose it as you go along. Now here in this box here, you choose your gross margin. So gross margin, now this is when you've got your margin, your markup, hence that sort of earlier conversation. Now if your margin in your business, for whatever you do, and it could be that your margin is 100%, maybe for what I do, for example, I class myself as an overhead. I don't charge myself to a workshop that I do, for example. So my margin is 100% because there's no direct costs associated with delivering the workshop. But if you have people who are doing client work and you're accruing the time, you're billing their time, classically, again, accountants or lawyers, if you're in manufacturing, you've got products and materials and labor involved, you can have a gross margin. So what gross margin do you want to achieve? So let's say your business, we're going to go 50%. So I'm going to enter, 50% margin, and that automatically calculates for you what your direct costs will be. So you've got direct costs of 20,000. I'm going to make it 60%. So it changes it 1 second. Here we go. 60% gross margin. So you've got direct costs, expected direct costs in your business, 16,660 each month, which will derive for you at 60% gross margin, gross profit. You may call it a contribution, a gross contribution. It's a 60%, but in pound note terms, we'll call it 25,000. So you're going to generate 24,990 pounds per month gross profit, which is going to go towards paying your overheads. Now, the overheads, what I've done here, and there's another template I'll show you in a second or two. This one I've done here to make it very easy. I've put in the rent rates, gas, electrical, this sort of thing, wages, employment costs. You can change these. You can put down here whatever you like. But in this box here, let's for the rent, for example, let's say you've got, I don't know, 50,000 rent. What it does automatically for you is it just splits that 50,000 by 12 and runs it all the way across. So every month you're paying just over 4,000 in rent, and then you've got a 50,000 toll at the end of it total. So it matches with it. So what you do, you put your overheads in, and it just splits it by 12 and runs it all the way across. Now that works really well when you've got a sort of a straight non-growth business. The next spreadsheet I'm going to show you, if you've got high growth, for example, or flexibility, you can adjust it, but it just runs it all the way across. So whatever you put in there, electricity, insurance, maintenance, wages, let's put a wages in there of 50, 1, 2, 3 as well. Straight the way through, and you build up all your overhead schedule. Now, remember, this is nothing to do with cash. This is nothing to do, don't confuse this with your accountants will take you through your prepayments and your accruals if you're on accrual accounting or cash accounting. I'm not going to go through that right now. But for example, with your, with the rates, for example, or the rent or insurances, you may pay all your insurance in January for your vehicle fleet, or you may pay the building insurance in January. But this doesn't reflect that. We're amortizing it over the year. We're making a prepayment and taking the benefit of that single cash payment and reflecting in the business over a period of time. So if you're on accrual accounting and you're doing non-cash accounting, that's how it works. Again, that's a separate workshop, and I'm not going to go down that route now. But what this does, it reflects at what are called attributable costs, not cash, it's attributable costs. Now, what you've done here, you put in your overhead schedule, and then you work your way through it. And what it gives you at the bottom here is a net profitability. So now here we've got net profitability. So each month, because everything's straightforward here, we've got the same sales and overheads, 16,000 per month in net profitability, gives you a total profit for the year of 199,880. That's what that business will generate in that 12 months. What it also does, the 100,000 profit you wanted to achieve at the start on the first page is shown here. That's where it's just showing you this is what you thought you wanted. This is what you're actually going to get. Now, if you're ahead of the curve on that, if you're up on it, this box here, the profit gap, you can see here it's positive. So on this particular model, you are making nearly 100,000 more than you wanted. Life's very good, I would have thought. However, if I put in here 125,000 for rates, there I've knocked it all the way back down. As now you can see, when we're only generating £75,000 of profit, euros or dollars, and compared to the 100,000 I wanted, I've now got a profit gap of 25,000. So it's turned red, it's flashing at you, you're down behind the curve. Now, this is where you go back and you look at your productivity and efficiency, your gross margin, your net margins, your sales, your marketing, because if you really want to achieve that 100,000 profitability, you've got to do some strategizing around, well, how do we do that? How do we get either more out of the existing business, efficiency, productivity, or do we need to bring new clients on board, new products, new services, sales, marketing, and get the business how you want it to be? So it's really a sort of planning template, if you like, as well. Now, what these graphs do on the right-hand side here, let's park that over there. Now, the sales pattern, straight line on this one. And then we've got a net profit pattern, straight line, because the overheads are split straight line. And then we've got a cumulative net profit, it shows you how the profitability is running. Again, that's one way of measuring the business. In my experience, very few businesses run like that. This is just one way of looking at it. So you are probably going to flex your sales. I would think you're going to flex your sales. For example, if you're in the martial arts business, for example, tends to get very, very busy, or the fitness business, you're busy in January, everybody signs up at the gym in January, may taper off a bit and they come back in September. There's going to be a flexibility to it. Most organizations have a flexibility around their sales. Build that in and that will bring up some different numbers for you. So that's the first template. Now, what it also does is, I'm going to flip onto this next tab here. It gives you a dashboard. So you fill those numbers in on that template, and then it gives you a summary of the year. So this here, this is Q1, quarter one. It gives you a picture of what quarter one's going to look like. January, February, March. Sales per month, GP, totals, net profitability. Now, these are all the same because they're, we're looking they run across the same as you go. But you've got 4 quarters, clearly. There's your 4 quarters. There's your quarterly plan, your 90-day sprints done. And then you can do your strategizing. You can do your OKRs, your 90-day plans and sprints around these numbers and trickle it down to the team. You've also then got a summary, Q1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got then quarterly sales versus gross profit graph and a net profit pattern graph as well. So it just gives you a snapshot. Now, again, this is not to replace anything you do with your accounts package or your accountants or anything like that. It's just to be a planning scribble box for you to do some work on it. And you can plug these numbers then back into your tools and templates. Now, what I've also done is a Flexi Budget. Now, what I mean by this is it's a similar format to the one before, but let me just run through it. So let's say, what do we put sales-wise on this one? We had 500,000. Okay, great. So I'm going to stay with 500,000. Oops. Sales. There we go. And I'm going to put in here 10%, 5%. I'm going to flex the sales throughout the year. 30, 25, 15, 5, add a gap. And this is extreme flexing, as you can see. But there we go. So what I've done now, I've applied that 500,000. I've then put in, well, January's 10% of the year. Feb is a bit quieter. March is busy. May is busy. July, August, yeah, great. We're dead in September, October, and a bit in November. So the sales pattern now is all over the place. So you can see on the graph here, that's how the sales pattern looks. Now, for most businesses, that's horrible. But that's the sales pattern we had at the airport with the landing pattern of the aircraft. That's what it looked like. Therefore, we couldn't have, well, we could, but it was inefficient, straight line costs. So what you can do here, what I've done is you can go for your rent. Now, rent is likely to be a fixed cost throughout the year, unless you're going to take on flexible premises. Maybe when you get busy on this business in May, for example, maybe you take on some spare space on a short-term let. So your rent might be, let's say, 10,000 a month, and I'll copy that all the way across. But we know that in actually May, it's going to be 15,000 because you're going to take on extra space. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to guess here, 12, 1, 2, 3. Oops. Okay, so we've flexed it now. We've got this difference coming through. So now you can see the net profitability has got a big dip because we've got costs coming through. Now, in terms of when I'm up here, in terms of the sales, I'm going to go for the same 60% GP. Oops, I hope this works. Oh, it's not working. They love technology. Anyway, you put in your GP there and you flex it all the way through. And what it means on this spreadsheet, you put your sales pattern in and then you flex your overheads to match it. So when you have your sales pattern, your overhead pattern does what we did at the airport, and it flexes in what I call in sympathy with your sales pattern. So we've got the one budget template here is pretty straightforward, a bit of a blunt instrument. And the second one is where you flex your sales if you want to, and you flex your overheads. It does the same thing at the bottom in terms of profitability and profit gap. What it also does is, if I go back to this one here at the bottom, I love this. It's a key indicator for lots of people in business, for me and some of the clients I work with, is when's your break even point in the year? When do you break even? Now, if you're making classically 10% net profit in the business, well, that means you break even 5 weeks before year end. Fourth week in November, you're breaking even. So you've worked for nearly 11 months to pay all the costs, and you're only making profit in the last 5 weeks. That's a bit thin for me in my business. I want to break even around about September time, so I've got a bit of slack in the system. So what this does, it also calculates for you the break even day. So on this model I put here, this business breaks even on the day 310, the 310th day, easy for me to say, of 365. Is that okay? Is breaking even about 55 days before year end, a couple of months or end of October, something like that? Yeah, that might be okay, but it's a key driver because it also means what's your break-even point during a month or a week or even a day. If you're in retail, you have a daily break-even. For what we do in the service business, probably a monthly break-even, certainly quarterly, but this gives you a target break-even day as well. So that's how the budget template works. I hope it's reasonably straightforward. There seems to be maybe a bit of a glitch on the one. I'll polish that out before you get a copy of it. And what it also does, it generates again this other box for you here with the template, and it takes you through sales and gross profit as you flex it as you go along, gives you the charts as well. But really, this was I've tried to make it as simple as possible because most people in my experience, and probably I think Aaron will probably back me up on this, and Peter as well, and Steve, is that people don't like doing budgets. They avoid them. I saw a post on LinkedIn this morning and somebody was sharing a post there they had from a client. I'm not doing a budget, never had one, never going to do one. And it's actually a fundamental key principle of setting the vision and the predictability for the business, providing you reflect back onto your budget the responses you get, the measures, the monthly management accounts or the cash flow forecast. There's more to it than this, but this is a great start point. And I use this template for what we do, and I'm pretty good at it as well. We get pretty close. This year really sucked. I did my budgets in December this time last year, looking forward to 2020, and it was looking really good. And then by March the 15th, it had all evaporated. Certain parts of the business had. We adapted, as you guys all did. We adapted, we pivoted, was a word. We've come through. We've actually grown during the year as well, which is really good. And my budget for next year is a bit clearer now. Hopefully it's a bit more accurate. And for you guys as well, hopefully it is. What I'm seeing genuinely is the number of inquiries in the clients' businesses picking up. The inquiries we're receiving are picking up. We have new clients coming to talk to us. We have workshops coming back on stream for next year, which is great. So next year's looking a bit more buoyant. So hopefully that applies to everybody. I know we've got different sectors with us on the call today from all over the place, all over the world and different sectors, but it's looking like a bit more positive, a bit more hopefully predictable. And so doing a budget and a forecast and this sort of image, what the business should look like in the next 12 months, hopefully brings a bit of certainty to the business for you. So those are the templates. I hope they're reasonably straightforward. I hope I haven't dropped any bloopers around accounting formats and structure. It's not intended to replace your accounting system. It's a scratch pad for playing with numbers, building a picture of your business with some bit of graphics on there. If you have a different system, great, use that. If you haven't got one, use this. But the principles around efficiency, productivity, margin, markup, predictability, and these sort of things, they're really critical, I think, to getting a good budget. Okay, so are there any questions? What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause recording. Because with the effect of the presentation is sort of finished. I'm going to pause recording, ask any questions. I'm going to invite you to go into a breakout room before I do disappear, because this has been recorded, gone to YouTube. Anybody looking who isn't connected with us, please just Google me, David Holland MBA. You'll find me. I'm all over LinkedIn. If you want to have a conversation and a coffee, virtual coffee, about doing something together next year, let me know. I'll happily have a conversation. Okay, let me pause recording.